Some need a little bit of help here. Everybody should know this saying. It's not about what you know. It's about who you know. Yes, everybody knows that it's not about what you know. It's about who you know. And as someone who's a recent graduate from an undergraduate institution and now being a graduate student, I have many friends who are recent graduates looking for jobs. And as they're looking for jobs, they found out that they can apply to all kinds of different places. They can talk about how wonderful they are. They can talk about all that they know. But when it comes down to it, many of them found that the best way to find a job is to tell their friends that they're looking for a job. And those friends tell other friends, who tells their mother, who tells their cousin, who tells their coworker that they know someone who's looking for a job. And then eventually they themselves get a job not because of what they knew, but because of who they knew. Now, we all know that if you surround yourself with successful people, you yourself are more likely to be successful. And now I want to show you, if we can switch over to the map, Eric. Over here, what we have here is a website called Mapping America that New York Times put on. And they took all the census data and they compiled it in an easy-to-read map. So what you're looking at right now is New York City done by median income. So the darker green you see means it's wealthier areas. So if you look, areas of high concentration of wealth have something like 150, 160, sometimes as many as 200,000 for a median income. Now if you scroll up and look at Harlem, or look across the river to the Bronx, you see it's 20,000, 22,000, 19,000. So we see certain areas that have surrounded themselves with successful people, surrounding themselves with wealthy people, but other areas, high concentration of poverty. They're surrounded by people in poverty. Now, one of the cool things about this website is you can see all kinds of different data. And so if we look, we can see change in median income over the last 10 years. Now, you'll see that those areas that were dark green, many of them are now dark yellow. And what the dark yellow means is actually an increase. We see this area that was dark green had a 56. Some of the other areas had a 16, 20% increase. Now, we do see that in Harlem, there's some areas of yellow, but as you go into the deeper areas of poverty and across the river to the Bronx, you see deep decreases in the median income. Now, I'm not an economist. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm a theologian. So I'm not going to pretend like I know the causality, but we can look at the facts and see what happened. Now I want to take you to another map, which is of our beloved city, Dallas, Texas. And so if we go to median income and zoom in a little bit, see right here where we are in Highland Park, 224, 125, 160,000 median income. We're surrounded by very successful people. But when Aaron talked about West Dallas, well, if you go over into West Dallas, you see 20, 15. South Dallas, again, 21, 19, 12,000. If we switch over and look at the change in median income, we see that in Highland Park, there were slight decreases in some areas, but in other areas had large percentages of increase. But if you go over in West Dallas, if you go in East Dallas, South Dallas, you see a decrease. Now, while we have this map up, I want to show you one neighborhood in particular. That's my neighborhood, right here in Old East Dallas. Now, if you see, the median income is $23,000, and over the last 10 years, we saw a decrease of 26%. Now, why do I live there? It's not because it's where I grew up. I went to school in South Carolina. I was raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. I didn't grow up in East Dallas. I chose to move to Old East Dallas. Now, why would I do that? Eric, if we can switch back over to the presentation. I did that because I was a part of a community. The community that I'm a part of is called the Dietrich Bonhoeffer House. Can we get that presentation up? There we go. And the Dietrich Bonhoeffer House is part of a larger network called the Epworth Project. Now, the Epworth Project is a community of houses that was started up by a professor named Dr. Elaine Heath. And so this Epworth Project is a network of not just our house, but of 6 houses across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You can see on the map where the different places are located. And again, my house is the Bonhoeffer House in East Dallas. And so we moved into these neighborhoods so we could get to know what's going on in these neighborhoods. We live together under a rule of life. And that rule of life has 5 key parts, which are prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness. And so we share in these 5 ways with not just our immediate community members, but with the neighborhood around us. Now, what that looks like on a daily life is that we wake up every morning and we pray from a book of liturgy called Common Prayer, a liturgy for ordinary radicals. It also means that every week we have a community meal around the dinner table where we invite all kinds of people from our neighborhood. It also means we spend at least 4 hours of community service in our immediate neighborhood. Now, we've gotten to know these people in our neighborhood, and what we've learned is that it's not about the neighborhood, it's about the neighbors. It's about the people that we've met over the years. People like Freddie and May, who are deep in their addiction. People who we have tried to help get them assistance, but they just can't get out of the rut. People like Grant. Grant has been homeless for over 30 years. Or should I say, Grant was homeless for 30 years because just a couple weeks ago, through the VA office, we were able to get him a housing voucher. So now, after 30 years of being on the street, he was a veteran, had medals, but he was living on the streets. But we were able to get him into housing. People like Robert, who is a friend of ours that's still on the streets, but we've got him into job training programs, and he's beginning to apply for jobs, and he's beginning to get a self-esteem that he didn't have before. Because you see, for these people, when you ask the question, who do you know? People that are ex-cons or in jail right now. People who suffer from mental illness. Prostitutes. Abusive parents. Now, Tammy talked about her wonderful mother who raised her, who supported her. Well, many of the people that I've come in contact with find themselves in situations because they didn't have a loving mother. They didn't have a mother who would fight for them. They had a mother who would fight against them. People who are alcoholics, gang members, drug addicts. This is their network. Who can they go to when they need a job? Who can they go to when they need housing if this is the network that they have? That's why people are on the streets. It's not entirely because of their own decisions. It's not entirely because of their own mistakes. It's because they don't have a network they can go to. They don't have people that can support them. And so we moved into this neighborhood so that we could be supportive, non-judgmental neighbors. So that we could get to know them and figure out where they're coming from, figure out what their current network is, figure out what are their dreams. We moved from being neighbors to being friends. Because we learn from them. We learn that their needs, when we get so intimately close to them, their needs become our needs. It's no longer their problem. It's our problem. Because we become brothers. The 4 of us at the Bonhoeffer House become brothers with people who are going through issues. Like I said, that their issues become our issues. So what? Why does this matter? At this point, it might seem like I'm just talking about how great we are, or maybe you think that I'm gonna pull out Bible verses, talk about Amos who says, let justice roll down like mighty waters and justice like ever-flowing streams. Talk about Jesus who turned over the tables for the changers. I can talk about those stories, but that's not what I'm here to do. I don't think that I'm better than anyone else. It's that mentality that got us in this situation in the first place. And I'm not gonna pull out Bible verses, and I'm not here to preach to you because we all come from different traditions. And maybe the scriptures that you have aren't the same scriptures that I have. And maybe you don't have the same interpretation of scriptures that I have. But that's okay. Because we all agree that when someone is in need, the kind thing to do would be to help them out. If we're willing to help out our own blood brother and sister, why can't we help out our neighbor? So the challenge that I have for everyone here is not to give all 168 hours of your week. If you want to live the way that I live, that's great, and I'd love to talk about that, but that's not what I'm here to ask for. I'm here to ask for 1 hour. 1 hour a week, not 168 hours a week, that you can go not to give your money, not to go to help out, not to go to serve food, but to get to know somebody. Learn their issues, learn who they are, learn their story so that it becomes your story. Because when it comes to issues of poverty, when it comes to issues of homelessness, when it comes to issues of immigration, it's not about what you know. It is about who you know. Thank you, and God bless.